Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the only single-player forum. I'm Justin. With me is Reagan.
I'm yawning. Okay, I'm good now.
That works.
Yeah.
That's your soundbite. And we're going to talk about games again today. That's sort of the point of the show, is to talk about games. Specifically, games that we've already played and paid for, that people want us to pay for again. Remastered games. We've seen a lot of games be re-released, remastered, especially with this new generation of consoles with PS4, Xbox One. And we think there's a big flaw in those consoles in that they don't have backwards compatibility, which means that if you own Halo 3 on the Xbox 360, you can't put in that 360 disc of Halo 3 on your Xbox One and play it. It doesn't work, which sucks. So, because of this, we've seen a lot of games being remastered, re-released on the new consoles. Let's start with Last of Us, because that's the worst thing that's ever happened.
Mm-hmm. It's a pretty bad example. And we were talking about it on the podcast, but I just now thought of something I didn't mention. But it's funny because the term remaster comes from film, where like they'd take a movie that was on VHS and remaster it, touch it up, and put it on DVD. Well, that was never really intended for people who already owned the VHS or whatever. It was intended for a new audience, whereas games have taken this term remastered, and instead of meaning, here's a dolled-up version for people who haven't experienced it yet, they advertise it as, buy this again.
Right, buy this again. It's prettier now.
Yep.
So, probably the first thing that we always go to, and we've talked about this before, is Last of Us. Last of Us released 2013 on the PlayStation 3. I said that weird, but whatever. It released on the PlayStation 3 and then re-released on the PlayStation 4 on the next year, 2014. The only difference being it upscaled to 1080p with probably better frames, probably
60 FPS. Yeah.
There you go. That's it. There's no new content. It's the exact same game. It's just prettier. Literally just prettier. And I'm way against that. It's not cool. Especially since it's still pretty fresh. Like, people still have the game.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
I was just going to say, other examples of this sort of thing happening is, of course, the Legends of Zelda games, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. They've been remastered and re-released on 3DS. That's different because they did rework the animations. It does look a lot better. And those are really old games, regardless.
Yeah.
Also, Halo 1 and 2, they had their anniversary versions are very different, very upscaled, redone, and those are also old games, so it's sort of acceptable.
And they have better online support.
Right.
And the other thing is, forgot what I was going to say. Oh, Last of Us Remastered is full priced. So It's not like, we were talking about the God of War 3 thing, and I basically said, it's an older game, they're upscaling it to 1080p, it's going to be 60 FPS. So if it drops for like $10 or $20, I'm okay with that. But when you release a game that came out last year for the same price it released at last year, that's pretty much unacceptable.
Yeah, that's not cool. You're sort of paying full price for something you've already paid full price for. A few more examples, just to give you sort of more context, is that GTA 5 also re-released. GTA is sort of a good example as well, because GTA released 2013 on 360 PS3, and then GTA 5 released for PS4 and Xbox One the year after, 2014. But Rockstar did add a good bit of single-player content in the new versions.
Right.
And also the PC version is coming for GTA 5 in April, and that's going to have even more new content. So that's sort of acceptable. But those are paid full price, which is
Well, and the best example, I think, is beyond Ocarina and Majora's. Those are obviously like the best example, but the next best example is like the Metal Gear Solid collection or the Devil May Cry collection last generation, because lots of people owned a PS3 or an Xbox 360 that didn't own a PS2 or an Xbox. So it was introducing it to a new audience. It was collecting the whole series instead of just one game. And it was upscaled, and it was only $40.
There you
So
go.
that's how you do it right, and then it's just kind of become bastardized into this release a product that came out last year with minimal changes for $50 thing.
Yeah, and sadly, it's happening a lot. The Borderlands, the Handsome Collection is releasing pretty soon, or may have released by the time this video comes out, and that includes Borderlands the pre-sequel, which released last year, and Borderlands 2, and all of their DLC. So it is still kind of worth it.
It's a have they confirmed any upscaling or increase in frame rate or anything?
I
like
don't
that?
think I haven't heard anything about that for Borderlands 2, but it is an old enough game to where they could do something. They could make that prettier, but if they don't, then that's kind of a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Especially since they're just taking the pre-sequel port that's already in existence.
Right, and they both run on the same engine and all that, so.
Right. I mean, I guess that is sort of better because I think that's going to be retail $60 for the collection, and that's a lot. That's a lot.
I think you could still probably get Borderlands 2 Game of the Year and pre-sequel for $60 anyway. I mean, maybe I'm mistaken. At least on PC, I'm pretty sure you could.
That's a good point, regardless.
Yeah.
To say how necessary that these collections and things are. The way I really view these things is that, and I've told you this already, is that if it's a past one generation behind, then it's a bit acceptable to make a remake or a remaster of it. Right. You made a good point with God of War 3 being remastered for PS4. They are upping it to 1080, better frames and everything, and that is a very old game, about as old as like Halo 3. So obviously there's a whole bunch of different sides to this,
right?
But in the end of the day, it's not a good thing.
And the whole God of War thing, that all hinges on price. I think a lot of the problem is price, because if The Last of Us Remastered came out and was $20, I don't think people would be complaining about it as much. But it wasn't. It was full priced.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I mean, I feel like personally it wouldn't be like $20. I feel like they might make it full retail because that is still a long enough gap to where they might hit people that have never played it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So they might shell out new players on that.
Definitely.
But
I also think it's kind of sad that the first entry in Sony's like big flagship franchise on the next gen is going to be a game that already came out.
Yeah.
The first release for Naughty Dog on next gen, game that already came out.
That's a good point that you're saying that, because like for a long time now, gamers have been pretty upset that we see Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed every year. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. There's not very many changes, very little graphical difference. But now, instead of getting games that are sort of the same every year, we get games that are literally the same every year.
Yeah.
And that's not okay.
And it's just going to add more stagnation to the pile of an already extremely stagnant industry.
Right. We won't see as many technological advancements, leaps and bounds being taken in game development.
Right.
Nothing's going to really change.
And they're not taking advantage of the new technology to create new ideas. They're creating the same old ideas slightly better.
Right. It's almost like people have everything they need to do awesome good stuff, but they just don't. Like, it's there.
And I remember when they announced these new consoles, when they announced the Xbox One and PS4, there were a bunch of people saying, do we really even need new consoles at this point? Mm-hmm. I mean, the amount of graphical upgrade that's going to be there is going to be so minimal. It's going to be such a diminishing return that it's not really necessary yet. And I think the fact that all they're doing is releasing the same games for a new system just proves that point.
Well, I mean, I sort of agree that there was a need for new technology, console-wise, but this is a different argument, but these consoles haven't delivered that.
Right, they haven't
really
taken advantage of the technology in an interesting way.
Yeah, I believe we were at the point in the previous generation where we need to move forward. Mm-hmm. A lot of games were pushing bounds already, but yeah, it's like no one's doing anything. It's just re-releasing. I get the fact that they might get new players, new gamers. It's obviously they're trying to sell more consoles with trying to pump out exclusives, and that's another issue too. That people are remastering things because there's no good exclusives right now.
Right.
One of the biggest exclusives for PS4 this year is going to be God of War 3, which was an exclusive, 5-6 years ago?
Yeah, a long time ago. More than that. It was like, it came out in like 2008, I want to say, so like...
Jeez.
Almost 7 years ago, yeah.
And while...
Go ahead.
While there's nothing wrong with, games looking better and people having more access to them, in the long run, it's not really doing anything beneficial for games as a whole.
Right, and I've made this same point on the other forum and on the podcast, but when you look at a year after the PS2, it had Grand Theft Auto 3, Silent Hill 2, Devil May Cry. I mean, games that couldn't exist on the original PlayStation. New ideas, new ways of playing games that the PlayStation couldn't deliver. There's nothing on the PS4 that the PS3 couldn't deliver.
Right. It's tough seeing it, It's, I mean, like we said on the console forum, we might get to a point where the consoles aren't really going to be anything special, and they're going to have to pump out more and more consoles. And in the long run, it's not good.
Yeah, and they're just going to be playing catch up to PC at this point.
PC's going to own the world.
They've been playing catch up to PC for a generation already, and I don't really know how much longer they can keep it up.
Yep. If they can't do it with technology and they can't do it with exclusives, they're going to try to do it with remastered exclusives,
or even like an interesting peripheral, like the Wii U with the gamepad. Yeah. You can't do those games on the
something
PC.
New and unique. Yeah. Something that changes things up.
Yeah, and I sent out a tweet about this the other day. I was like, game developers, I don't care about your fancy new graphics. I want to see what you can do with the new technology that changes the way I interact with your world. And so far, the answer to that question has been nothing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I say this a lot, but we'll just have to wait and see if anything can do better. Hopefully, this trend of remastering games doesn't become too popular. There's a lot of games I would like to see again, love to play again, but it's not. I'd rather see a lot of new stuff. New stuff.
Well, even like Kojima was talking about how he wanted. This isn't going to happen now for reasons we talked about on the podcast with Kojima leaving Konami and all that.
Right.
But he was talking about how he was looking for a studio to remake the original Metal Gear Solid on the Fox engine. And that would change the way you played the game with the adjustable camera, the new mechanics that have been added, new lighting systems. It would change the way the game is played and interacted with. That's a good remake. When it's the same game, slightly different, that's not a good remake.
No. I think that's the best judgment we can give there. And like you said before, the more people that realize this, that make this realization that the difference between the two, the better, the sooner we can fix this issue.
Yep.
I think it's safe to say we're not against remastered games. We love seeing games regardless.
Right.
But if there's no need for it, there's no need to do it.
Right. And it's a double-edged sword, like you were talking about. We need to get people to realize the difference between a good remake and a bad remake. Because while I do want to see people call out publishers on remaking the same game a year later, I don't want everyone to see remake and think automatically bad, because there are good remakes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we pointed out a few already tonight.
Yeah.
Or today, excuse me. It is tonight.
It is.
That's fourth wall breaking. But
yes.
Yeah. I think that pretty much wraps up what our message on that. What do you think about remastered games? I mean, they're not really they're a good thing. It's more people playing games. That's a good thing. But like we said, you've seen the pros, you've seen the cons. What do you think about it? Are you going to get these new games that are coming out in PS4, Xbox One? Handsome collection of Borderlands, Gears of War 3, not Gears of War, God of War 3. I'd love a Gears of War remaster.
That'd be pretty cool. I'm pretty sure they already shot it down
here.
though.
Oh really?
It'd be interesting though.
Being a bit hypocritical, but I'll take a Gears of War remaster.
Well, the original Gears of War is old at this point.
I think it was original Xbox generation.
No, it was 360.
It was 360? Okay.
But it was very, very early 360. They could definitely spruce that up.
Yeah. But, what do you think? And what games do you want to see remastered? That's probably the best question I can give you.
Or even the best way to do Gears of War, like I said, creating new ways to interact with the game. Make Gears of War 1 and 2 in the Gears of War 3 engine with the Gears of War 3 weapons.
I'm
new
much more
mechanics.
supportive of remakes than
Yes.
remasters.
Definitely.
Definitely. So, like always, let us know what you think down in the comments below on Twitter, wherever. Just talk to us. We'll talk to you back. And tune in next time for the Only SP Forum. I'm Justin. With me is Reagan.
See you later.
See you later.